As a new mum, I didn't realize that feeling fatigued and having an ongoing cough and a little bit of an ear infection could actually be something a lot more sinister that would change my life forever. Um, Hi, my name's Alicia Louise Lillington. I'm a 33-year-old mum of a 15-month-old, and a few months ago, my life changed forever when I found out I had Hodgkin lymphoma. I didn't know what lymphoma really was necessarily, and I suppose I didn't even really know that it was a cancer. I went to my doctor's office after months of other doctor appointments and just feeling really unwell. And I didn't think that that was what was going to happen. It was just a frustrating time where I had constantly been sick for more than 6 months, and I just wanted to get to the bottom of it and feel better again. I want to tell you a bit about my journey and how, step by step what happened, because I wouldn't have known these signs or symptoms. I wouldn't have expected that a cough could be cancer or an ear pain. And things just built up slowly. I think I had a bit of gaslighting, not only from like doctors internationally, because I did travel overseas while I was ill, but also I gaslit myself. The movie or the mockumentary, I don't even know what it is, Apple Cider Vinegar came out while I was sick, and I remember watching that and just thinking, that person was a hoax, Mel Gibson, and then I just said, then when I got my diagnosis, I almost gaslit myself that it wasn't real, but it was real, and I had the doctor's reports and results to confirm that. I hope that someone out there can get a diagnosis earlier because of me sharing my story. Before I was diagnosed, I was a new mum. So my daughter was born in early February of 2024, a beautiful baby that I was so excited to have. I had a really positive birth experience. Before I gave birth to her, I'd had a couple of miscarriages, which was really hard. And then I did a lot of inner work and parenting courses, birthing courses, and I felt so empowered and I gave birth naturally. I was just so happy. I'd had a lot of work stresses during my pregnancy, but I fought through them, and I ultimately just felt so strong. I was so proud of my body, and I still am so proud of my body for giving birth to a beautiful baby. I was home with my daughter for 5 months, and then I returned to work. I've always been a busy go-getter person that works 40 hours a week, maybe volunteers 20 hours a week, does extracurricular things. I've been a public speaker and met, celebrities and interviewed a lot of famous people, whether it's a prime minister or, a sports star. There's many people I've interviewed over the years, many speeches that I've delivered to big audiences. I've also mentored so many people throughout their careers. And I'm a high achiever. I like to get things done. Went back to work when my daughter was 5 months old. And I still felt good. I was waking up 5 times a night to breastfeed or less. And I felt well within myself. I just felt so happy to have her. I went back to work and I really enjoyed the work. I felt like I was keeping up, and it was full on, but it was a lot, learning a new job after having a baby, but I just felt switched on and ready to go. I loved my team. My job was really good, lots of flexibility. I was learning things like breastfeeding and pumping and, all that type of stuff, while I was going back to work as a new mum and with my first baby. But as she sort of went to daycare around October, I started to just feel really unwell. And maybe even before that, maybe even September of 2024. And so I thought it was probably because she'd brought illnesses home from daycare. There were viruses, and we went to the doctor a couple of times to get antibiotics and things like that. And I was just starting to feel really tired within myself. I wasn't able to be as much a go-getter as I once was. And so that was a little bit different, but I just put it down to daughter starting daycare, bringing home viruses, which was to be expected. But I just kept working. I started to get a little bit more fatigued after work, whereas before I didn't feel fatigue after work. And I remember having chats with colleagues at work about, I feel tired today. And you always have those kind of chats, don't you? So that was my life before. And then, slowly these things started happening. I started getting a bit of a cough around October, November as well, and went to the doctor. They gave me some antibiotics at the time and just said, they think it's a virus. Just generally I was just getting more and more tired, even though when she was a newborn and the first 6 months or so, even 9 months, I was feeling fine. Just feeling more tired, more run down. Nothing seemed to be helping, like the antibiotics and follow-ups that I had with the doctor. They didn't seem to work. I didn't want to go back to the doctor too often though, and I thought it would just pass, so I just tried to give it more time. I did go back to the doctor though, and I remember looking, when you're looking for your doctor's appointment, I was looking and there was only one booking time available, and my daughter was sick too, so I ended up booking her in rather than myself. I think I went to the doctor like November a couple of times, December, and they gave me an antibiotic one time, they gave me a nasal spray another time, and then I think December we were about to go overseas. We did a big trip to Europe and the Middle East, and before we went I just felt really sick. I had to have Nurofen sort of every 6 to 8 hours because I was getting headaches in here, and I just still had this ear pain, and they kept checking my ear and they're like, it's all clear, there's nothing there. But I was just feeling so unwell, so they gave me an antibiotic that was a bit stronger. It was a combination. We tried nasal spray, a saline spray as well, Flow. I had eardrops, a bunch of things. I was just really trying to get better before we went overseas. We went overseas on Christmas Day 2024, and I was feeling absolutely exhausted, and I just had this feeling like I don't feel well enough to go. But of course it's an amazing trip, and it was with family, and it was all planned, so you're not gonna give that up. And I guess I was a bit overwhelmed as well, sort of traveling with a baby for the first time, we'd already been to Fiji, but that was a bit easier than traveling internationally on a big flight. When I came back we were there for a month, and when we came back I was still feeling really unwell, so I booked in to see the doctor. But I did go with my daughter again, and this was January, and when I went there, she sort of got distracted by my daughter. My daughter had a runny nose, even though the booking was for myself. And she sort of said, oh, she looks like she's getting snot on your breast, because I was like breastfeeding her at the time. And I think we got antibiotics again, and they referred me for a scan for my ear pain. I got the scan and nothing abnormal really showed up. And I was still feeling unwell. When I was working, things just seemed a lot harder. I felt like I just felt like slower. It's hard to explain, and I felt so tired. I just felt like I had to go to bed, each night by 6:37, something like that. And so I went back to the doctor in March, actually. Yeah, so it was a long time between then. I just kept getting worse and worse, and I just thought, maybe the antibiotics or the nasal spray would go away with time. But I slowly also started losing my voice as well, and I thought I might have laryngitis. And I wasn't sure what it was, but I actually chatted to a couple of colleagues at work, And they were like, why don't you just like write down all your symptoms? So I wrote down all my symptoms with a timeline. There were about at least 6 symptoms that I had: coughing, headaches, ear pain, fatigue, weight loss, without trying, and others, headaches. And so I gave them a timeline of how long it had been going and put all the symptoms together on a piece of paper. And one thing I'd always done when I go to the doctor is have a chat and tell them all about my life. But this time I was like, I'm here. I need to talk to you directly about this. And my colleague suggested, why don't you go in and suggest what you think you might have? So I said, could it be long COVID? Could it be asthma? Could it be mold? I tried researching it and I tried looking it up actually on YouTube, and I was like, what is ear pain? How do people get better? At one point as well, from one of the appointments in January or February with the doctor, they thought it might have been my TMJ, like a jaw pain. I went and got checked with my dentist as well. I tried acupuncture, I tried massage, I tried herbal supplements, I tried meditation, a lot of things to get better, but I just didn't seem to get better. So when I went in March, I put together this whole picture and told them the 3 things that I thought it could be. Told them all the things we'd tried in the past. And the doctor said that she was going to give me a puff of asthma, put me on antibiotics again, and then go for a scan for my chest just to check things out. She said like no rush on the chest x-ray, but I wanted to do everything. So straight away I was on the puffer. I was, taking the antibiotics and booked in as soon as I could for the chest x-ray. Where I'm from, the chest x-ray results come to you before they go to the doctor. So I got that through an app, and I thought I would just put it into ChatGPT to see if there's anything there, because I couldn't see anything on the chest x-ray. I mean, it just looked like a chest, and didn't know what it was. So yeah, just put it into ChatGPT, and it did come back saying there was something there, but I think it was a bit inconclusive. It wasn't exactly accurate, but when it said there was something there, I thought it might be like a benign tumor or something along those lines. So then I booked in to see the doctor again, because I was like, she's going to get these results and I want her to run through them with me. So I booked in as soon as I could. And then she had a look and booked me in for a CT scan of my chest. And so she said it does look like there's something there, and we'll book in for that CT scan. So booked in for the CT scan, and they put like a dye or like a contrast in your system. I was still like, when I was going to these appointments, like bringing my baby and my sister, they were like running around in the reception. I didn't really, put 2 and 2 together how serious everything was. But I do remember after that CT scan, one of the doctors, as I was like going out and paying for the scan, he just was walking behind the receptionist and just like in a back corridor and just gave me this look. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting look. Maybe something's going on. And so when I got that scan, I don't think I got that scan actually, to be honest, before my doctor. The next day I was in the office, and I was so lucky with my job. I was working remotely 4 days a week, which was really good to be at home and be able to be here if my daughter needed anything, and then 1 day in the office. But my office day was a Thursday, and that was the next day. And my doctor's office called me up at like 8 a.m. when I was in the office, and they said, you need to come in today. And then I was like, can I just come tomorrow? Because my work is so lovely and I only work in the office 1 day. So I don't want to, be going away from the office. Can I come tomorrow? And they're like, no, you need to come today. So I guess that's when you know it's something serious, when the doctor calls you first thing in the morning, or the doctor's office, and asks you to come today and says like it needs to be today. So my husband and I went to that appointment. I think it was at about 3 p.m. on a Thursday, late March, and when we sat down with the doctor, she said they did find something there. It's a doctor I've known for a long time, so we've been through a lot together. And she said they think they've found Hodgkin lymphoma. It was a complete shock to me. I had no idea about lymphoma. I didn't even really know that it's cancer. It's not what I expected at all after being sick for so long. I was shocked. I just remember crying. I asked, what would happen from here? Should I work tomorrow? Should I take some time off? I wasn't really sure what to do next. And the doctor said she thinks that I should take the Friday off and take the weekend, and we'll go from there. I also asked, how long is it going to take for a referral or getting in to see things? But she said once there's a cancer diagnosis, things are usually pretty fast from there. So then I went to, once we finished that appointment, we just were crying. We left my husband and I, we left the, I've hardly ever seen my husband cry. And we just left the doctor's office and I went out to pay, and I was just crying, and they just said there's no charge today. And my doctor always charges me, so I was like, gosh, it must be serious. And also I just, I guess you're just upset, so you don't even think about crying in front of everyone. And we left and we got in the car, and I always want this particular ice cream called Good Berries that my husband's always like, don't get Good Berries, be healthy. But I was like, can we just get Good Berries? And we went to go get that, and I just remember being in the car and my husband just said it's not fair and just cried. And I've been with my husband for 16 years and I haven't seen him cry that often, and I was just crying and I was just in disbelief, because how could I have cancer? I'm 33, I'm a young mum, I'm in the middle of my career, and these symptoms, coughing, sore earache, headaches, things that we all have, I didn't know that was cancer. And then I just started questioning everything, how long have I had this? Could I have caught it sooner? What's going to happen next? How serious is it? Am I going to die? These were all the things that I thought, am I going to be able to have another child? Because I really want to have a big family. I called my sister and let her know, but I think it was we couldn't really process it properly. And then I called my mum and let her know as well, but I don't think, that's necessarily what my family was expecting, and I don't think we could really process it at the time. So I think it was just disbelief. We were just by the lake having that ice cream and just, in disbelief. I knew something was wrong in my body for a long time. I didn't stand up and didn't advocate enough for myself that I really need to get to the bottom of what's going on. I didn't tell my work exactly how bad I was feeling and how hard it was for me, and I didn't tell anyone. Well, I kind of mentioned it, but maybe I tried to be stronger than I really should have with how bad things were going. I think, if you have something off in your body and it doesn't feel right, definitely advocate for yourself, go to a doctor, write down a timeline, collect the symptoms, suggest what you think it might be, and be unrelenting in getting your diagnosis, and advocate for yourself. So for this one, and for me, it was headaches, it was coughing regularly, then it was eventually losing my voice and having ear pain, feeling fatigued, it was weight loss, even though, sometimes it's nice to lose weight, and, a lot of people were commenting on that. It is not always a good thing to be losing a lot of weight. I would suggest, everyone's on their own journey, and if you've recently had this diagnosis, I'm so sorry for you. You just have to figure out what's going to work for you. try and do things that you love, and reach out to your support system. I feel like right now I'm in like the lowest part of my journey, and I'm trying to find strength and courage during this moment, but it's been very hard. It's been a very hard experience. I've lost a lot of my hair now, you can see, but I just never wanted to actually shave my head, and that's my own journey. I've got wigs. I think hair loss is a big thing with chemotherapy, but I know it'll grow back one day, and this is just one season that I'm going through now. So I'd like to turn this into something inspiring. Even on the hard days, I just think about, the messages that this might help. That doesn't make sense, but I just think about the message to advocate for yourself, and the fact that me sharing my story might help someone, and that really inspires me. I'm sharing my journey messily and when I can, when I have enough energy, and I have to let go of perfectionism, which is something I've always had. I've had to take a break from my career, although I have been able to work 10 hours a week. You're on your own journey, and you just do what works for you. There's no right or wrong. You don't have to shave your head. You might be able to work. It really depends on you. Or you might not work at all, and you might just focus on your health. If you're supporting someone with cancer, I'd say keep reaching out to that person. Don't say like, let me know what you need, because that's a really hard question for someone to answer. I think just show up, check in, ask how they are. For me, I'd love someone to just come over and clean the house, or come over and just watch a show together. Just be with me and just check in when they can. And especially like after a while, I think it's like, everyone checks in at the start of your journey, but right now I'm several months in, and I feel like I need more support than ever just to keep going. So definitely do that. I think if you can be creative, if you are creative, record videos, or write in a journal, or whatever feels right to you. Do some art. Just have a release when you can. If you have cancer, or if you've had a Hodgkin lymphoma journey, I'd encourage you to share in the comments below what you're going through. What have you found that's helped you? Or what questions do you have as well about the journey? I'm happy to answer anything about my own journey, and ultimately I'd like to help others. Please like, subscribe, comment. Always got to say that, right? I think something that I've learned is the only way out is through. So I'm not able to plan my way out of this. I'm not able to find, an alternate path or anything like that. I just have to go through this right now and sit with it and sit with my emotions. Right now it feels like I'm in the bottom of a big well and just trying to get out. Sometimes I can see the light and sometimes I can't, but the only way out is through, and I'll get through this and you'll get through what you're going through too. So thank you for watching.